Welcome to the Wealth Management series. This one is moving crypto assets. So I'm in the process of moving my digital assets over to my company for a multitude of reasons, and I found out yesterday on a call with a lawyer that there's actually many ways to do this, and in this video I'm going to go through all of those ways with the sole purpose of getting you more informed and more educated as to how to do this to set up your future wealth. And what's even better than all of that is I'm going to break it all down for you as if you're a third grader. No, I'm serious. I'm actually going to talk to you like you're a third grader. First of all, I want to touch on why you should have your assets, your digital assets, your crypto in the custody of your company or your limited company rather than you as an individual. 99.99% of you in here probably have your assets, your crypto, in your possession as an individual. But as we get further down the line and wealth potentially comes into our portfolio, those assets being in our own custody as individuals may not be the most effective and efficient way of using those assets or efficient place for them to be. So transferring them to a company could mean in the future, the movement of those assets or what you do with those assets is more tax efficient, it's easier, it can be integrated into your trust easier, and it can just be a massive weight lifted off your head just to have these things in a company. Now, I'm not saying create a trust and then a holding company and then companies underneath for all the different assets. I'm saying stay as lean as possible right now, establish a company. In the UK, it costs £17 or something to set up a limited company. In America, it's probably much the same, setting up an LLC. Set this company up, and while you might think that it's as easy as just sending the crypto to another wallet, it's not that easy. There are 5 different ways that I'm aware of that you can do this. Let's get into number 1. So the first way you can do it is a direct transfer. In my mind, this was the only way to do it. I came to find out that I was very wrong. So what is a direct transfer? Well, let's use some childish words here to explain it. Direct transfer is like giving your toy or your digital assets and putting it directly in a box, the box being your limited company. Easy as that. That's one of the big positives of doing this. It's super easy. All you've got to do is take the toy, put it in the box. The not so good thing is that once you do that, the toy in the box might become a lot more valuable later down the line, and you might have to pay a lot more taxes to mummy and daddy being the government. The next way to do it is called a convertible loan. And what this means is you give your toy to the box on like a borrowing basis. You let the box borrow your toy, but we actually make an agreement that later on the box will actually own the toy, but only later on. The great thing about this is that you can decide how long the toy exists in the box. And even if you want to take the toy out of the box later, you can. The other good thing is that you might not have to pay your taxes to mummy and daddy until later on down the road. This is called deferring your tax, and you can use a convertible loan to do it. And usually you wouldn't have to pay mummy and daddy tax until the toy is now part of the box. I don't know if it's working to explain it in toys and box language, but one of the biggest things you can do for this channel is actually hit the like button. The more likes we get, the more people have access to this information, which will enable us as a community, not just me, position people for the transfer of wealth that's incoming. So hit like. The third option is called option shares. And option shares are actually really complicated, and it's quite hard for me to explain it in third grader language. But let's put it like this. You essentially give all of the power to the toy box in this instance. The toy box has the option as to whether it wants to have the toy in it or not, and it can decide that in the future. And when it does decide in the future, it can say, well, this is actually worth to me X amount of shares. It can also determine, wait, this toy is actually worth X amount of this different type of share that the box has set up. Like I said, this is very complex, but it can work drastically in your favor and allows you to even wait to see what happens with the toy over time in terms of how much it's worth, because you can defer that decision further down the road. Of course, that defers any tax implications as well. I mean, tax to mummy and daddy. And the only really bad thing about this is that if the toy goes down in value over time, the box might not want it in the first place. And again, usually you don't have to pay any taxes to mummy and daddy until the box has decided to have the toy in it. Now let's get into the fourth one. This is essentially gifting the toy to the box. And really all this is taking the toy, putting it in the box. Done. That's it. It's a gift. It's not sold. It's just a gift. The positives of this this tie only really with two things. It might be a nice thing for you to do, especially if other people are involved in your toy box. And there's not really anything that's wrong with this method, really, honestly, because if you were giving this toy to somebody else's box, then you would be missing out on that value of the toy over time. But this is you just in two different locations. You are the owner of the toy and you're the owner of the box. But it seems like if you are gifting your toy to the box, that would typically, in most situations, be tax-free. But when you're defining crypto and gifts and gifting in crypto, it gets very gray. It's a very gray area, and defining that may be quite difficult for your accountant or legal experts. That's why I am not doing that. I'm not giving it as a gift. I'm not doing option shares. I'm not doing convertible loans, and I'm not doing direct transfers. So what am I doing? Because this is all actually happening to me right now. I'm moving the final parts of my digital assets over to my company, and the way I'm doing it is by something called a safe agreement. And what a safe agreement is essentially is putting your toy into the box, and the box promises that later on down the line it will give you a bigger toy. Or actually, an even better way to put it is you move your toy to the box, and the box agrees that later on down the line you can actually still maintain an element of ownership later on down the line of part of the box. And the best thing about this one is that it's really quick and easy to implement. It defers tax obligations, it defers valuation of the assets, and also allows the individual and the company's interests to be able to align. And something that people typically think is a not so good thing about this is that if the assets do grow in value, you as an individual's perceptive share of that toy box might seem small based on the new valuation, but this can also be molded to a positive. Maybe for tax reasons, you want that share to be as apparently as small as possible of that box. So when mummy and daddy look to see how much tax they can take from you, they see a tiny slither versus if you fought for a larger share of the box. And so actually this doesn't only defer tax events or tax obligations, but can also reduce them. And the great thing is that you won't actually have to pay tax to mummy and daddy until the box give you your shares on the other side, way down in the future. So if the agreement is for one share later down the line, there are ways within the box to be able to distribute different types of shares and give one of this different type of share to the individual, which might have a significantly lower value than the other types of shares. And so it gets very complicated very quickly. And this is why you have to talk with a legal professional about all of these things. Like I said, I'm going through this as we speak. I'm moving my assets using a safe agreement over to my company. And this is best suited for my needs and my desires, and my interests are aligned with this method. Your interests, based on the advice that you get given from your lawyer or wealth manager or whoever it is, they might suggest that you do a convertible loan. Maybe that's right for you. But for me, the safe agreement was the best. You can use any of these words when you're talking to an accountant, a wealth manager, or a lawyer. They will understand that kind of language. So write these down. Remember, safe agreements, option shares, convertible loans, and a direct transfer. Remember, at all times, you must have a paper trail to show the transfer of these assets and the agreements that are in place. So if you're doing a direct transfer, you need a letter of sale or agreement of purchase. You need this written down, everything, the value of the ledger that you're moving from yourself to the company, the market value of the assets, what assets are in it, the wallet addresses that are associated, the names, the addresses, everything needs to go into that agreement. And you should probably get these written up by someone who knows law. Let's say you're moving that toy from one toy shop to another toy shop, the toy shops being the exchanges, if you didn't gather. You have to show the purchase and the sale receipts for that. You need to show the paper trail. What's great about the blockchain is that you can easily look at the transaction hash and see the flow of value over there. But it's imperative that at all times you create a paper trail to show the authorities should they need to see those things. You need all the agreements, the paper trail, and the smarts to make this all happen. There's so much more that I want to go into, like the concept of taking drastic responsibility for your own wealth management. I can't do that. Other people can't do that. When we move into this new system, you are going to be a rare individual with the information that you know. So take it upon yourself, take radical responsibility for understanding the ins and outs of all of these things so that you can manage your wealth moving forward. Just my thinking on this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay emotionless, and I'll see you in the next one.